Welcome to Fusion Tonight. Thou shalt and thou shalt not. Our Bible gives us rules for living, and some of them seem kind of strange to us. Well, we're going to take a look at them tonight and probably change your life. Now, scream and yell and jump up and down for our host, Mr. John Cooper.
Welcome to Fusion Tonight. I'm your host, John Cooper. How are we doing tonight? Great. I'm so glad to see everybody here. I have just been so excited all day. All day, I've just been in the best mood because all I can think about is this individual that we've all known to love, that just professes the Word of God, that uses all of his talents for good and to just better the world around him. And I'm, of course, talking about the newest Denver Broncos quarterback, Russell Wilson. I've been so happy all day. And then Gabby was like, hey, we have church tonight. And I was like, we are going to be late. We should probably go do that instead. So on a serious note, though, football aside, I'm very excited everyone's here. We have another fun edition of Two Lies and a Truth tonight. So this season, we've been sprinkling in, learning about some weird laws in the Bible. So tonight, we're going to play another game. We have a resident expert that knows all about the weirdest laws in the Bible. John Bentley is here, and he is going to, yes. John knows all about the weirdest laws in the Bible, and he's going to help us learn tonight as we play a little game. And so let's have fun, let's get into it, and let's start the show. All right. That was the first one of the many laws that we talk about. It's not super obscure if you're familiar with some of the laws in the Bible. Don't covet thy neighbor's ass. That was your first test, is when I had to turn around and walk back here. So I hope all of you, passed. It's the one time you get to use a swear word and it's biblical. So all right. Moving on from that, we here at Fusion like to do what we call an open mic time. And this is essentially joys and concerns. This is your chance to lift up anything that's on your heart and your mind so that we can talk about it, pray about it, and be about it. So with that, does anyone have anything that they would like to lift up tonight? Yeah.
This Thursday is the 3-year anniversary of the passing of our former principal.
Yes. So definitely prayers, and that you're talking at Dyke New Hartford, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. So definitely prayers there, and I know that school community was really hurt by that, and it's been 3 years. So prayers for all of the family and all of the students and everyone that knew them and loved them, and as they reach a milestone there. Hayden, I see your hand up.
Tomorrow we get out at 11:15.
Yes, early outs. Love it. Love early outs. Zari.
Today in track practice, I hurt my leg a little bit, but out of our whole entire group of girls, I was one of the fastest ones.
Nice. So hopefully your leg injury is not too serious, and one of the fastest girls on the track team. Awesome. Great. I love hearing stories like that. Awesome. Jake.
My mother will be in town next week, so just prayers that that the whole house just goes smoothly, and Daria's very nice, all of those things.
I was gonna follow up and say, is that a joy or a concern? So prayers for Grandma coming to town, and smooth sailing, and a little bit of spoiling, but not too much, because as parents we know what it's like to come in after that. So does anyone else have anything they want to lift up tonight? If not, let us all take time to bow our heads and be in a time of prayer with one another. Gracious and Holy Father, we're so blessed to be able to gather in this space to once again be with one another as we come together to worship you and spend time with you in your house. Lord, tonight as we gather, we we always want to have fun. We always want to laugh and have a good time, but we hope that as we play our game tonight, we're able to learn something new. And while some laws may seem obscure, we know that there are central themes and messages that we can learn from, that we can take away from, that can help us better ourselves and help put us on a better path to just trying to live our lives in the way that you would have us live them, so that we can honor you and treat ourselves as Christians and treat one another in the best way possible. So Lord, as we come together to worship, we ask that you hear the prayers that have been lifted up tonight out loud, and hear the prayers, the silent prayers that are still on our hearts. We ask that you celebrate the wins in our lives, whether it's being excited about getting out of school early or excelling in a sport that we're taking part in. We ask that you're with us when we turn our child over to the care of another family member, that there's a lot of love to share and perhaps some structure to keep in place. We ask that you guide us when maybe we make inappropriate jokes in church and say swear words, and offer us grace and forgiveness in those silly times, but also in the serious times. All throughout our life, we try so hard to do the right thing, and sometimes we have missteps, and sometimes they're minor offenses, and sometimes they're major ones. And Lord, especially in this Lenten season, as we really think about sacrifice, and we really think about trying to give up things in our lives that don't benefit us, so that we can focus our hearts on you and the things that matter. We ask that you just fill us with grace and forgiveness for ourselves and for one another, so that as we get closer to Easter and we really reflect on what it means to be Christians, to be your followers, to know the sacrifice that your Son made for us, that we can just recenter ourselves in the best possible way and go forth in the best possible way. And as we pray for these things, we do so with the prayer that your Son Jesus Christ taught us, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses. We forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. All right, we now enter our offering time. And so we have 2 jars at each doorway. Chris is going to play a video showing you our mission of the month. And this is your chance to stand up, stretch out, learn about a wonderful mission, and perhaps make a kind donation tonight towards those efforts. So this is your time for offering.
Reading is an essential life skill, and studies show that the earlier children learn to read, the more successful they are in school and in life. Helping young students develop good reading skills can change the story of their lives. Our neighbors at Lincoln Elementary School are our partner in education. Because of the pandemic, we have not been able to have our Reading Buddy partnership this year. But, First UMC friends, we can still help Lincoln students become good readers. We're working to continue our tradition of buying a book for every Lincoln School student this year. For some kids, it's the only book they own. Lincoln kids love the books we provide, and every year they bury us in thank you notes. And sometimes they even come over for a visit to say thanks for the books. You can support this great cause for the kids in our neighborhood by sending a check to the church office, or by using the secure giving portal of our church website at aboutfirst.com/giving. Every dollar you give will have double impact because we'll match it through the Bill and Ione Zach Memorial Fund. Let's get these kids reading and change a child's story. Books for Lincoln Kids is our March mission of the month.
right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the main event. We have another round of 2 lies and the truth. Our rounds are represented by letters. We'll go A through F. And within each round, we have 3 readers that are going to read you an obscure law. And then I'm going to ask you as the audience to shout out when I cue you to tell me which number, 1, 2, or 3, you think is the real law in the Bible. So let's introduce our readers. Number 1, please get up for Hayden, ladies and gentlemen. Number 2, first time on Fusion. Give it up for Zari, ladies and gentlemen. And returning to us with hopefully laws that don't have to do with animal cruelty, Connor, ladies and gentlemen. And after we've guessed to help us learn about the real laws, our weird law resident expert, give it up for John Bentley, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so without further ado, let's begin. We will start with round A with number 1.
The color purple shall be reserved for the robes of the royal.
Color purple reserved for the robes of the royal. Number 2.
You shall not wear robes so short that your ankles are exposed.
Keep them ankles covered. Number 3.
You shall not wear clothes made of both linen and wool.
So linen or wool, not both. Very picky. So it's either 1, color purple's reserved for the royals. Number 2, keep them ankles covered. Or number 3, pick one or none. So is it 1, 2, or 3? What is it? 1, 2, or 3?
3.
1, 3. John Bentley, what's the answer?
Well, I think the ankles should be exposed so the ankle biters don't get them. But the true answer is, you shall not wear clothes made of both linen and wool. This comes from Leviticus 19:19, provides rules about clothing. One's unfamiliar to modern readers. It states, neither shall a garment mingled of linen and woolen come upon thee. What it means? There is some disagreement on this one. It could be because wool and linen were appointed for priests alone. Another thought is that mixing wool and linen bring on malignant fevers and exhaust the strength.
Interesting. So don't mix linen and wool. It's either because priests are greedy in their wardrobe, or perhaps it's just too warm and it would be very hard to function with all of those warm clothes.
The ankle biters, yeah, I think that's what I think.
If John wrote the Bible, it'd be number 2. Practicality is important in biblical times.
Yes, it is.
All right. Moving on to round B, starting back at number 1.
You shall only plant hay in a field that is pointing north.
All right. Number 2.
You shall not plant more than one kind of seed in a field.
And number 3.
Do not allow flowers to grow in your field. They will poison the soil.
All right. So 1, only plant hay in a field pointing north, which seems subjective. It's pointing whichever direction I'm facing, I suppose. Number 2, don't plant more than one kind of seed. And number 3, no flowers. So is it 1, 2, or 3?
2.
2. Overwhelming seems 2. Not planting more than one kind of seed. Expert John, what is it?
The correct answer is number 2. According to Leviticus 19:9, you shall keep my statutes. Thou shalt not let thy cattle gender with a diverse kind. Thou shalt not sow thy field with mingled seed. Neither shall a garment mingled of linen and woolen come upon thee. What it means, this rule has been may have been intended to put a stop to superstitious practices regarding the planting of seeds. Another theory is that certain, albeit unspecified, seeds actually should not be mingled, and thus making this a practical rule. Ultimately, it is a rule about maintaining what we understand is God's preferred order of things.
All I see is whoever wrote Leviticus was really hung up on the linen and wool thing.
Yep, that's what I see.
Just, somebody made this person a sweater, and they're just mad about it forever. This is the worst sweater I've ever had.
Right.
I'm going to write so many laws. So many laws. Interesting. Do not mingle seeds. All right. Moving on to round C, back at number 1.
The fat of an animal shall only be eaten on Sunday.
Number 2.
You shall not eat the fat of an animal.
And number 3.
You shall not eat the fat of a young animal.
All right, so number 1, only eat fat on Sunday. Number 2, no, you don't eat any fat. And number 3, it's okay as long as they're not young. So, 1, 2, or 3?
1. 1. Numero uno.
It was all across the board. John, what are we looking at?
We're looking at number 2. You shall not eat the fat of an animal. Leviticus 3:17 mandated, it shall be a perpetual statute for your generations throughout all your dwellings, that ye eat neither fat nor blood. What it means, certainly there are health benefits to not eating fat, that's for sure. But those may not have been understood in biblical times. There are numerous interpretations of this verse. Some biblical scholars say this means you can't eat fat from an animal intended for ritual sacrifices. Others say the etiquette it was for self-denial and mortification of our appetites. Even in those things which probably many of us much desire, it is about controlling ourselves and remaining focused on God.
All right. So don't eat a lot of fat.
Don't wear wool and linen.
And don't wear wool and linen. Don't mix seeds. So a lot of rules. Don't eat the fat of an animal. Do you eat a lot of fat on animals, John?
Well, I like it on my steak. Yeah, it gives it flavor.
Well, according to Leviticus, that might not be wrong. You think you're going to stop?
I don't know.
Or do you think you're just going to ask for forgiveness?
I'll just ask for forgiveness.
That's probably what I would do. I'm sorry, God, but it tastes really good.
It tastes good with it. You bet.
All right. Group D, round D, back to number 1.
You shall not speak the name of other gods.
Number 2.
You shall not speak my name first among all other gods.
And number 3.
You may not speak of God only on the day of worship.
All right. So we're gonna review. There was some extra verbiage. So number 1 is do not speak the name of other gods. Number 2 is speak my name first among other gods. And number 3 is you may speak of God only on the day of worship. So don't speak about other gods. Just say my name first, only on Sundays. 1, 2, or 3? A lot of ones. John, did they get it right?
Well, they know their Bible then, because they got it correct. The true rule is you shall not speak the name of other gods. According to Exodus 23:13, and in all things that I have said unto you, be circumspect and make no mention of the name of other gods, neither let it be heard out of thy mouth. This is straightforward instructions. Believers to ignore the names of all other gods. In fact, they were not allowed to even say those names. Some scholars interpret this to mean never mention them except with dislike.
So Destiny's Child, Say My Name, pretty relevant here.
Yep.
Say my name, say my name. When no one is around you. Say, baby, I love you. Pretty straightforward. This one doesn't seem as obscure. I'm not going to sing the whole song. The one I can't sing, and my goodness, would be here all night as I'm trying to, I remember this from the, going to age myself. But so pretty straightforward. Only speak of God unless you're talking trash, talking that smack, you know, then I that gets
Then
you.
you can just
Except with dislike. Like, you can talk some trash, but let's save the love for the one and only. All right. Moving on to round E, starting back at number 1.
You shall leave fallen grapes upon the ground for the poor to eat.
Number 2.
You shall leave fallen grapes upon the ground because they are unclean.
Number 3.
You shall eat only fallen grapes as atonement for sin.
So 1 is you shall leave fallen grapes for the poor. Number 2 is you'll leave fallen grapes because they're dirty. And number 3 is you only eat fallen grapes as an atonement for sin. John, what are we looking at? Oh, you're right. I was just glad we weren't talking about raisins, and I got excited to figure out what was going on with this. So, 1, 2, or 3, what is it? 4. All right. A little bit all over the board. John, what are we looking at?
The real answer is number 1, although I think they want the grapes left on the ground so they can make more wine for themselves. But it says you shall leave them on the ground for the poor to eat.
Oh.
This comes from Leviticus 19:10. Do not go over your vineyard a second time or pick up the grapes that have fallen. Leave them for the poor and the foreigner. I'm the Lord your God. What it means is this is about charity and grace toward the poor. And it doesn't just mean to let the poor eat fallen grapes, but rather, if fewer than 3 grapes are on a vine or ground after harvesting your vineyard, let the poor Israelites or foreigners who can't own land in Israel have them. It's a simple rule to allow others who have nothing to have your excess.
I'm really glad you explained that, because when you read it, you're like, man, Leviticus makes it really hard out in the real world to explain some things, taking these things out of context. So I do want to point out, as the resident raisin hater of this church, God doesn't talk about raisins. Stop doing that. It's not okay with God. If he wanted you to have raisins, he would have said, hey, ruin the fruit, but he didn't say that.
Right.
But he does talk about leaving excess grapes behind. Instead of trying to collect every single thing that you might not need, it is okay to leave some behind for those that go without. So I do like this obscure rule. Thank you. And I like the idea of smashing up for wine too. I'm more than okay with that. I know that we do grape juice because we're Methodists, but maybe the Catholics don't have everything wrong, right? That's all I'm saying. All right. We now go into our final round. F. For fun. Starting with number 1.
You shall not play indoors while grandma is napping.
That checks out. Number 2.
You shall stand when an elder enters the room.
Number 3.
Where 2 or more elderly women are gathered, beware the perfume cloud.
Oh, God. All right. So, don't play inside when grandma's asleep. When an elder enters a room, you should stand up. And where 2 or more elderly women are gathered, beware the perfume cloud. These all sound true to me. I'll let you decide. 1, 2, or 3.
Well, the real answer is number 2, although all 3 of them is probably correct. I would say, John.
I would say all
I never
together.
played in there when my grandma was, was slamping. So it says right here from Leviticus 19:32, you shall rise before the aged and defer to the old, and you shall fear your God. I am the Lord. Many cultures have traditions that bestow honor upon elders. They get the best seats in the house. They are allowed to speak without interruption, and their opinions are respected. Young people are to be respectful of older people. Other translations of the Bible say, you shall stand up before the gray head and honor the face of an old man. Remember, old people have lots of experience and wisdom.
All right.
Yeah.
There's a joke in here about Congress, but we're not going to go there. Too much for... So I thought when they were saying stand for the elderly, it was because they can't bend down to greet you, and like that would just be super inconsiderate. But I like that, respecting the elders and seeking their wisdom and their guidance and seeing what we can learn from them and welcoming them. A lot of times in the church we focus a lot on the kids, on the young folk, and that being the life of the church. But if we look at this, perhaps, folks such as yourself, John. I mean, I think you're a little older than I am.
And I'm not gray-haired, though. Gray-head yet, though.
Well, the Just for Men is working wonders, John.
You shall stand up. Yep, there you go.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is all of our obscure laws. So we'll recap the ones that were true. Don't wear clothes made of both linen and wool. Don't plant more than one kind of seed in a field. Don't eat the fat of an animal. Don't speak the names of other gods. Leave fallen grapes upon the ground for the poor to eat, a.k.a. share your excess with others. And stand when an elder enters the room. So I hope you learned something tonight. I know some of these are silly. I don't expect any of you to really live by the wool and linen deal, but I think there's some insight in here for a few of the other ones. And I mean, that's part of being a Christian is jumping into some of these obscure laws and trying to find a deeper meaning than just an out of context line that at times might be used against our faith and our beliefs to, create doubt and create conflict and debate. And so as you go through your life, I'm sure you're going to run into lots of these. And I just encourage you to become an expert like John and really find yourself well-versed in what these things mean so that we can better live our lives the best way we can. So ladies and gentlemen, give it up for John. Give it up for our readers tonight. And I hope all of you have a great rest of your week. I hope you had fun tonight. I hope you learned something tonight. And I hope to see you in 2 weeks. Next week is spring break. Get outside, enjoy that. Hopefully we get more warm weather without all the inclement crap that comes after it. We can enjoy spring break. We'll see you in 2 weeks. And until then, love one another, have a good time, and be Christ for one another. Have a great night, everyone.